Well, Americans are fed up with our do-nothing Congress, saying they should work more and get paid less. According to a recent Hill poll, voters think we should lower their pay, cut their pensions, and put them to work longer. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out on this one. Al Lewis is a columnist for Dow Jones Newswires in Chicago. George Jarkesy is a managing member of the John Thomas Capital Management Group in Houston, and Masha Saidi is an attorney and former contestant on The Apprentice. George, let's start with you. Look, these guys make $174,000 a year. That doesn't seem like a whole heck of a lot of money to, like, write law that runs our country.
Well, I think that, I have many friends on Congress, so let me start there. But I think we ought to look at something a little bit more progressive. I think we ought to look at something that when they don't pass a budget, they don't get paid. I think we ought to look at something that looks like this. For every year they have deficit spending, they get paid 10% less. We have to rein in spending in Washington. I don't begrudge them the money they're getting paid, but I do think that they ought to be held accountable like everybody else who works is. It
makes sense, Masha. I mean, people in corporate America, their stock options are based on performance, things like that. We should have a performance scale for these guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not against that necessarily, but I think we can all agree Congress is not doing much, but forcing them to work longer hours is not going to solve the problem. Look at the recent failure of the super committee to come up with the cuts needed to reduce the deficit. That didn't have to do with lack of time. It had to do more with lack of courage to reform our entitlement programs. As far as their pay goes, what I find much more offensive than their high salary is the fact that they're not legally barred from trading stocks based on insider information they get over the course of their job. That's insane, Tracy.
Right. And Al, actually, we've seen that when Congress is away, the stock market does better. The market is happier when these guys get lost, so maybe we don't need to work them more.
Well, I don't know really what we need them for. They're all saying that they're there to serve the public, but I guess they're there for that paycheck, too. You said $174,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money, and when you're there taking bribes from millionaires, lobbyists, I suppose it doesn't seem like a lot, but still the median household income in this country is $54,000 a year, Tracy, and now people aren't even making that because they're losing their jobs, in part because of the way these people have mismanaged the economy. I really have to concur with the American public here. These guys are getting paid too much. They get paid even if they don't show up to vote.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, how about this for an egregious story? An 85-year-old grandmother is coming out saying the T.S.A., well, they strip searched her and injured her in the process. Now, she claims they forced her to remove her pants and her underwear. T.S.A. officials say they followed proper procedure. Masha, this is proper procedure.
It doesn't sound like it, Tracy. I mean, I think we all want to ensure that passengers are safe when they're in the air, but I think some of these TSA agents, they need to be retrained. They're lacking common sense. As I was coming here, it just broke the news that this one specific terminal, over the course of 2 days, they took 2 elderly women into a private room where they were violated in this way. Not strip search, but they did have to disrobe. So you have to ask, is this really necessary for our safety?
George, with her little hunch, she's only 5'11". She walks with a walker. I mean, do we actually think she's got a bomb under her little dress?
I don't care if you're 18 or 85 or 12 years old. What you find commonly is that the TSA lacks humanity. They lack a certain sense of handling and customer service. And that's what really upsets people. I'm sure if they would have handled her very friendly and courteously and what have you, that this wouldn't have been a complaint. Nobody wants to see bombs go off on a plane. Everybody wants to be safe. But it's the lack of courtesy and that you really find that really offends people and agitates the situation.
Yeah, I'm with you, actually. I've been there, and I've been with friends who are treated like garbage just for no reason whatsoever. All right, Al, I'm throwing this one to you because we were just talking about the American people. Many Americans are choosing, well, just not to shop at all this season. Roughly 40% are saying they're foregoing gift giving altogether to pay their bills. Now, I get that. A lot of people are nervous, and yet we saw stellar numbers coming out of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the couple days thereafter.
Well, it's the tale of two economies. This number came from a website called debtadvice.org, and so you're self-selecting people who are already sort of worried about their debt, and this is one of their solutions to deal with it. I think that there's another part of our economy that's still strong, and people are out there shopping strong, but I'm glad to see that there are people out there that are saying, I'm not going for all this Christmas hype. You know, this Black Friday starting on Thursday, Thanksgiving, was just insane. And, you know, a lot of these deals that they're offering up, they're just channel stuffing their revenues and making it look like retail sales are going up when actually they're quite flat to down in an economy that just continues to chug along.
Yeah, and Masha, what we're going to end up seeing at the end of the day are profit margins gone. These companies are going to end up not making much money, and we're going to continue to see price cutting, aren't we?
Exactly, Tracy. So the pessimist in me says this is bad news. During the holiday season, 40% of annual sales are made for many companies. But the optimist in me says good. You know, you shouldn't spend money you don't have, whether it's the government or whether it's you or I. So in some ways, I'm thinking this is good if people are going to be fiscally sane. It's better to pay your bills than to buy another Snuggie.
I hope that's true, though, even though we saw credit card purchases increase this season. So I'm not all that optimistic we're making smart choices. Al, George, Masha, you guys were smart choices. Thanks for coming.